Okay, this is Tom Hoffmann looking back 20 years, right, Tom?
Yeah, this is mostly 2001. Before we get going, I'd like to thank Dave Nelson for going through the slides that I pulled out of my collection and making them available for this program. We're going to basically cover January through December of 2001 activities that I participated in locally, and I did travel a little bit also. Okay, this is train FDNS at Lisbon Road. The conveyor in the back is for one of the gravel companies, and he's just entering the Greenville passing siding heading south. Here's the same train again, a little bit further on south, not too far from Green Road. In Waukesha, our switcher would rotate between the various lighter duty units that WC had in its collection. This particular unit used to be Algoma Central, and they repainted it up in WC colors, and here it is waiting to go to work on a cold February day. This is a northbound train near Sunset Drive in Waukesha with a mixed variety of power. It wasn't CN yet, but the time was running out, and early on it was great to see some of the CN trains, and after a while it began to be rather more frequent, which kind of put the handwriting on the wall for WC. This is at Jefferson Junction, and this is probably one of the views that hasn't changed a whole lot, because the UP has a large number of GP38s -2s on their roster. And I was an insurance adjuster at the time, and if I had a claim out in Jefferson County, I always managed to come home by way of Jeff Junction. And here he's facing east with the ethanol plant behind. And this is the other unit on the west end. Okay, here we have train, another FDML, Fond du Lac, switching off to the NS in Chicago. And in the front are some of the gravel cars. And WC was, as we recall, very popular in having mixed consists of all of the different connections that they had in Illinois. And here again, this is in let's see where we are here, Silver Spring Drive in Sussex. And the same train again at the north end of DuPlainville going into the siding for a meet. Dropped off the cars for the gravel people and ready to go on his way after meeting out northbound. And here he is probably near Wire Road making another set out. And this hasn't changed a whole lot, in 20 years. Here's the Amtrak number 7 at DuPlainville. Quite common to see this. We still see it today, but the units are going to be replaced, and so that'll change things. But I believe these units were first used like in 1998, so they've been around a while. And I would go to DuPlainville, and I haven't figured out how many DuPlainville photos like this I've got, but one day I went there and checked with some of the guys. They said, well, nothing's coming till Amtrak. So I went home and took a nap. Okay, this was in LaPorte, Indiana. I still participate in the 3 times a year Durand slide video shows, and so I was on my way to Durand probably on a Friday, and this was a westbound train at LaPorte. and a coal train on the same NS Chicago line. And this is still very frequent, not so much SD70 Max or SD60s, but they still run a number of coal trains on this line, although coal service has decreased. This is a pretty good location, good parking, and stay there for about an hour, you might get 3 or 4 trains. I went down to Wellsboro, another busy location, and this is a container train heading east at Wellsboro. And at that location, they crossed the Canadian National X Grand Trunk Western. We were just, a group of us were just there in last November, and it's still very busy. We were very fortunate to get, I think, 8 trains in 2 hours. And another view. Okay, they had a work detail and a CSX. I don't think they've got these orange maintenance of way units, but they did at this time, and they're doing a tie enhancement replacement program when the traffic was not as busy. Here's a Grand Trunk, a CN train with IC and GTW power heading southwest, going towards Chicago, and the CS main line is in the foreground. You can still get in here pretty easy. We were, like I said, we were here in November and probably spent the better part of 2 hours, and nobody bothered us, and so that's good news. Here he is crossing the CSX main, and another CSX eastbound came through shortly thereafter. In those days, they were mostly using SD40-2s for mainline power. There's still a lot of SD40-2s in the CSX inventory, but they're on lesser priority trains these days. This is in Battle Creek. This is a westbound NS local. And I stopped at Battle Creek to get Amtrak and perhaps grab a quick bite for lunch. And here is westbound Amtrak train with high-level equipment. Still a very popular route, and Amtrak has acquired rights to own this property, and I think they now go 110 from Battle Creek east to Porter. And they're working on the other section, which will be 110. Also, were allowable in engineering wise, but not through Albion. There it's 25 miles an hour, and they aren't going to change it. Okay, this is at Bridgman, Michigan. I'm heading back to Milwaukee, and this is CP train. It was X501. At the time, the CP had the rights to operate overhead traffic on the CSX, and X500 and X501 were the last trains that CP trains that traveled on this line. Now they go via the Norfolk Southern, and I think they also have an overhead train on the CSX. And there are rumors afloat that they might try and buy the CSX line down the road, but that remains to be seen. Okay, here we are at Wellsboro again. This is a CSX train with BNSF power. War bonnet up front, pretty cool. Kind of an ugly, ratty UP unit up front. This is an eastbound Grand Trunk train about to cross the Diamond. Here's a local train heading south towards La Crosse. Now the Chesapeake and Indiana. And for a while they had not a whole lot of business up this end of the line, but the ownership changed and they do come up this way. When we were there in November, there was a CKIN ex-Mesabi Road unit parked next to a color position light signal. Kind of a rare thing to see these days. Probably still there. Okay, this is a CSX Jeep 38-2, also at Wellsboro. And here we are again, Wellsboro. I believe this is an overhead train of the CP being handled by CN. And a CN train came shortly thereafter. This is at Ainsworth, Indiana. Okay, some local stuff to fill in. WSOR heading north on the CN at Duplainville Siding. I still can get it these days, and they go through Waukesha at night, going east and north. And nowadays, when it's pretty dark in the morning, it's the same thing going the other direction. Although on Saturdays they usually run later, and they're easier to follow. This is in Burlington. Northbound train. These units have all been retired. WC train at Waukesha at Frame Park, and ex Santa Fe unit up front, F45 with some piggyback traffic. And here's one of the gravel trains. I think at the time they were running like 4 gravel trains between south of Fond du Lac and points to the southern suburbs of Chicago. I think this was U706. Okay, this now is a trip that I took with Mike Condren. Mike Condren, for a number of years, worked with a fellowship at the UW at Madison. And he was at the Christian Brothers University in Memphis. And he would come up for summers. And the last time he did it, he was actually here for a year and a half. Mike was a Frisco fan, and he passed away several years ago. But a lot of his stuff is available at the Frisco Historical Society. But anyway, he and I went out on a Saturday, and we wanted to head towards Clinton. Actually, this is on the IMRL, Iowa Minnesota Rail Link, and this was a westbound train, just about reaching Davis Junction. This is another westbound at Davis Junction. IMRL had a rather diverse array of junk. I don't know where they got this one, but there were 2 of them in the 8900, 8500 series, and hauling a westbound freight. Here we are at the railroad park. You don't see any SD 40-2s of the Northwestern, but anyway, still a popular place to go to spend a day or part of a day, and motoring around the city, getting other stuff. There's quite a bit of industrial activity nowadays as opposed to when this was taken 20 years ago. In heading east. Another eastbound, piggyback up front, crossing the BNSF. And we have a local train on the BNSF heading west. These 2 units were the in-town local switching power. And you can see the railroad shelter in the background. In the old days, before that was put up, the rail fans would congregate kind of where I'm taking this picture, and they'd bring a grill and stuff and cook their meals, and it was really a very interesting place. Kind of gave the town folk an idea when they built the railfan park. Heading the other direction, railfan park off to the right. This was a through train heading east, and I think these units were from one of the ore lines up in Minnesota. And an eastbound with Heritage 1 paint on BNSF. Another intermodal. Okay, this again, another eastbound on the UP with a Rio Grande in the middle. 4100s were pretty new at this time, and there's still a number of them soldiering on, but they're not on, usually not on high priority trains. Illinois RailNet, this is a different operation these days, but they had a switching stuff at Flag Center. Power was on standby. CF7s off the Santa Fe. This is at Flag. Westbound hopper empties, coal empties. And that grade crossing has been closed, but it wasn't when we were there. Okay, this is again west of Rochelle, and I gotta catch my notes here, see where I'm at. Okay, 4599. Okay, this is an eastbounder at Nachusa. Nachusa has crossovers, so it's a place that if they might make an announcement on the radio saying that they're gonna make a change from one track to the other. It's all bi-directional CTC nowadays. So here they're on the traditional Northwestern running left-hand main, but nothing to say that they can't move over. And the train was probably going 60 miles an hour, and quite a nice spot. It's just out of Dixon, I believe. Here we are at Nelson, going under the coaling tower. Still can get this photo, but there's no tower there anymore.
Oh, the cooling tower is still there.
The coaling tower is there, but the interlocking tower is long gone. Here we are again, Nelson eastbound. Line to the line that used to go to St. Louis is off to the left. Okay, this location is east of Clinton. It's where the BNSF line from Savannah to Galesburg crosses the UPXC and NW. Dave Ingalls, when he was with us, commented this place was called Bluffs. And apparently in the old days was a tower here. I don't think there was an interchange track, but the tower was probably used to get trains headed the proper direction before they entered Clinton. This train is southbound. And you guys are going to retire someday, and this place is for sale, grab it. Really cool. Guy had goats in the yard, and they were going to have a picnic or something, but very interesting. Here he's crossing US 30. This is eastbounder, same location. Westbounder. Another westbounder. All the times we've been there, rarely got a BNSF train, but a lot of UP stuff. A lot of these units have been retired. Here he is coming into Clinton. I've not ventured down by the bridge lately to see whether or not I get kicked out. And it's possible due to changing the industrial environment there, this may not even be accessible from US 30. I don't know. Same, another train a little bit further west. And I know for sure that this area has been taken over by Archer Daniel Midland. There used to be like several houses here, and they're long gone. Heading back to home, this is at Morrison. Right along US 30. This is at Flag Center, eastbound intermodal train, SD 40-2. These have all been renumbered in the last several years. And anyway, still had BN paint. And this is an overhead train on the IMRL, covered hoppers heading west. There he is crossing the short line at Davis Junction where the depot used to be. Okay, here we are in Elmhurst. I was, my wife had gone to see her parents in Alamogordo, New Mexico, so I was batching it for a while, and we we're going to meet our son and his new bride in San Francisco. Actually, they were living in Redwood City, so I booked a ride on the Cal Zephyr and took a scoot out to Elmhurst just for the morning, and got a couple trains there. Another ex-Northwestern leading, CN behind, CP behind it. Double stack eastbound. So we've got aboard the Amtrak, and here we are at Glenwood Springs. There was enough time to get off and get photos and get back on the train without worrying about missing it. And very, very pleasant trip, even though it was running late. The crew was very friendly and met some nice people. And there was one character that actually got taken off the train by the sheriff, and I don't know what happened to him, but they stopped in the middle of nowhere, and he got off. Here we are further on up the line at Grand Junction. Now reaching the end of the day. Notice they did have some mail and express on the back. Same location. Okay, this is in Sparks, Nevada, just a shade east of Reno. And crew change point, servicing the train, get off for a smoke break, and walk around, and they blew the whistle and everybody got back on board. Be able to cross the tracks and get a broadside. Didn't get a shot of the train at Reno because it was in a tunnel. Anyway, that's all changed now. Anyway, this is now we're in San Francisco, and 3rd and Townsend, the station. We were there for at least 6 days, and we drove in a car or drove a car for 4 miles. We used public transit for everything. We bought a 10-ride Caltrain, two 10-ride Caltrains for me and my wife. And so my son would drop us off during the weekday at the depot, and we'd go down. We went to San Francisco 4 days and 1 day to San Jose. And Redwood City is right in the middle, so our ticket, which was coded by zone, was good either direction. This is towards the end of the day, 2 commuter trains heading out to San Jose. We went to a San Francisco Giant baseball game. And these guys really have a good deal working, because the train station is like 2 blocks from the baseball park. And these are probably ex-SP single level, maybe former Sunset car, or Sunset cars, I don't know. But anyway, they had them lined up. It was a flat dollar amount fee, so there was no change involved. You load it and you go. And so we got on this single level train, and here we are at the Redwood City Depot. I got more photos that were taken by my camera, but this is one occasion where Kodak went and lost 6 rolls of my film. So that was not a good deal. But riding the Caltrain was definitely a good deal. My son and his wife took us up to St. Helena, and we visited this winery for a lunch, and it was right by the tracks. And so just about 12:30-ish, heard the whistle, and I said, "Dan, give me your car keys." So I was able to follow the Napa Valley wine train heading north into town, where they swapped ends and were ready to depart going the other direction. What a treat.
Even better if you're on it.
Well, I think the fee, the wine, what's the going rate? It was like $400. Well, my friend Rick and his wife were out there, and they took a shorter ride, which was a dinner train, and the wine train, I think he said, was like $400 or $425. But anyway, Satui Winery was a cool place to visit also. What a deal. And they pass all sorts of cool things on the way down, heading south. This is the Mondovi Winery at Oakville. And the next view is at Yountville, and I believe that's the last one that I had of that series. We used the cable car, very interesting. And the line was very, very long, but there's a cable car gift shop right next to where right at Market Street. And so we went in there and bought some cool stuff like license plates for my collection and neat things like that. But anyway, we went and bought a 3-day Muni Pass. And I don't know what it cost, maybe it was $7, but that was surely worth it because we used that for almost all of our activities, and there was no place that we wanted to go to that we could not get to on public transit. Here they are traditionally turning the car at Market Street. San Francisco also has an extensive trolley operation and trolley bus operation. These were new cars. We were on our way to the zoo and got on downtown after riding the PCC cars and got on this and got off within 2 blocks of the zoo. They also have vintage trolleys, again on Market Street. I believe this one is from Milan. Hang on here. Here's one of the PCC's cars painted up for Pacific Electric. A lot of people on board. And they also have electric buses by quite a large number of trolley bus operations there too. And again, a lot of people are at the stop waiting for public transit to take them to their next destination or maybe home from work. The last day that we were there to use our Caltrain pass, we went down to the museum. I believe it's called the Journey Museum in San Jose, which again, right next to the train station. And so we took a Caltrain. This is at Diridon Station. This is Altamont Commuter Express, which I believe that at the time they had 3 trains in the morning and or 3 trains out in the afternoon and 3 in the morning also. Here you have ACE train on the right and one of the Caltrains with their MP36 units on the left, and they're going to electrify this, and they've got wires up for part of the route, but I don't believe they've received any cars yet. I believe the cars might be in test status at Pueblo. Okay, back to home. Bob Bullerman, great friend. I've known him since 1967. And Bob, we lost Bob in, I think, 2012. But he would say, hey, when are we going out? Well, here we did. We went out on I think it was October Friday or weekday anyway. And we're in Manteno, Illinois. And that's a northbound IC train. CNIC. And there was a local with Grand Trunk unit, a little bit north of town, 2 Grand Trunks. This is in Kankakee, a northbound intermodal train. And this is Alliance Grain. No, it isn't. I'm sorry. J.R. Stewart Milling Company. Anyway, in Kankakee. The NS has rights from Gilman to St. Louis. And here's a eastbound NS train. In fact, I believe the NS probably runs more through stuff on this line than CN. Plow, they might have used it this last couple days. Now we're in Gibson City. This is Plymouth switcher for one of the grain haulers. We went to see the Bloomer line, which a little bit before the big harvest. So we got mostly stationary power. We had found one unit was working further up the line, but they've got more power. Some Larry's Truck and Electric leasers the last time I was down there. And of course, it's an old GP9. The real reason we went down there was to get this detour train on the UP. That's the northbound Eagle. And there was some work going on the old GM&O route. So they rerouted the Eagles through Gibson City. And we were fortunate enough to get it here. And there's Bob down in the corner by the building getting his views. He was probably taking video. And they were hauling a lot of mail too in those days. In fact, there's so much mail you can't even see the coaches. Okay, now we're in Wisconsin again, and this is Zenda. You might recall the Amtrak train 344, the Lake Country Limited. It did not really end up doing what it was designed to do. And they eventually made it a Saturday only train because they had to run something. Well, this is the last run of the Lake Country Limited at Zenda. And I don't think those two guys got on. They just were having a chat with the conductor. There he is again, ready to leave. The real star of the show that day was Sioux Line 1003. And this is at Fox Lake, Illinois. The end of the train would be at the metro station, and they were all set to head west. I believe they were going at least as far as Madison. I didn't go all that way, but it was still a great opportunity. Nice sunshine. Here the passengers are milling about the platform, ready to take off on a cool charter. Here they are crossing Wisconsin 120. And again, heading out of Walworth. I got ahead of them a little bit and went over to the WSOR and got some of their power. Still hadn't received the SD40-2s, but these are great. They also had some lease power. And the Sioux Line, I think these might be out of order. I believe this is departing Fox Lake. Yeah, there's the head end at Highway 120. Yep, back here. Here they're crossing the Rock River, heading, I think, timetable west. Nice broadside opportunity for the sleeper and the observation car. And here they are at Milton. This is as far as I chased them, and they made a brief stop at Milton before heading on towards Madison. I'm not sure what the reason for this was, but there it is. Might have served as a helper to get them started. I don't know if there's a grade there. Well, now we're getting down to the last days of Wisconsin Central. We got to see where my notes are here. Okay. August 7th, 2001. And here we have a unit heading towards downtown, passing Carroll University with a tank car probably from Ventura Foods on the spur line. Back up to Plainville siding. Now it's pretty heavy, all CN. One right after the other. Still ran the gravel trains. U506, I believe this is. At milepost 105. Heading south probably to Libertyville. And a northbounder about to cross Town Line Road. Wire Road, actually, I'm sorry. Here he's meeting that gravel train at milepost 105. And continuing on its way. Back at the Plainville crossing, northbounder with a 2400. I believe most of these have been retired. There may be a few left, but my Canadian contacts say they're getting pretty scarce. Local train 2058. This was again on the last day at to Plainville siding at the quad holding signal. And the next day we had CN. Here we are to Plainville. I really miss the WC, as I'm sure a lot of you other people do as well. For one thing, the CN is kind of cold. You could go up to shops, sign a waiver, and go just about anywhere. They had open houses for the general public, like on 4th of July, with excursion trains from North Fondy to Byron, and it all came to a crashing end. I haven't even tried to go in there, and I get depressed. Okay, this was up near Winona on the line coming down from Minneapolis. This is IMRL train. It was 26th of October. And Chuck Porter was a lifelong teacher. He and his wife worked at the middle school in Templeton Middle School, I believe it was called. Well, she was a staunch union person, and she would go to all the meetings. She would offer services to retirees. She was a real trooper. Chuck, he didn't care a whole lot. So every Friday of teachers convention, we went train chasing. And over the years, we could probably do a program on that, but we won't, at least not now. But anyway, Chuck had some friends out of Oconomowoc. We might even had 2 cars for all I know. But anyway, this was a southbounder that we linked up with at Winona. And here he is at Hayshore Lake, wherever that is, heading south. New Albin, he's now on the line south of La Crescent. This is going to be big time. I think they run like 2 trains a day. It's supposed to go up to 11 or 13 once CPKC gets going. We got a lot of infrastructure to fix. Sidings to lengthen, sidings to add to make that fluid. This poor guy ran out of time. Former Conrail, I think this was a southbound train. The train on the coming down is 233, the one we saw earlier. So they're going to pass this train up. They're not even going to recrew it. That was some other day. Here we are at Wauwatosa Amtrak, heading west. Russ Porter, who a lot of you know, noted railroad artist, had died earlier in October. And somebody had pulled some strings and got some people whose names will not be divulged onto the train and they passed through Wauwatosa and sprinkled a portion of his ashes onto the right of way. The train made an unscheduled stop in Oconomowoc where the guests detrained. People on board the train weren't told what was going on. But what a tribute to Russ. I first met Russ right here at the church, and I believe it was March of 1967 when I was just about ready to head down to Abilene, Texas to go into service. I was 23. And nowadays it might be hard for us older guys to take an interest in younger people, but that's a big mistake because somebody's got to carry on this tradition. And Russ was very interested in me as an individual. And when he said, when you get down to Abilene and get yourself settled, you send me a letter and we'll trade slides. And what a relationship. Another day at Wauwatosa. This was the same train, I'm sorry. Well, we went down to, now we're down near Thanksgiving time, and Arnie Burkhart, another member that's been gone. I think he passed away in 2002. He drove, and there were probably five or six of us. I maybe had two cars. But anyway, we're heading down to Rochelle, and we're going to go to get the Mount Morris local on the BNSF. So we made a stop to get the Illinois RailNet, still sitting there. Maybe they hadn't moved since the last time we were there. I don't know. Here we are at Steam Plant Road on the BNSF. This is east of Rochelle itself. A lot of activity still goes on there. In the local Rochelle Railroad has tracks to the right of where I'm standing, and they're very busy also these days. This was local power. Westbound piggyback train on BNSF. Another intermodal train on UP. And here's the train heading out to Mount Morris. Starts out on the main line and gets off at Oregon, I believe. So here he is coming into Mount Morris. We didn't chase him coming in. We kind of got ourselves situated, maybe had a bite to eat, use the washrooms or whatever. But anyway, here he is coming into town. And their big customer was called Quebecar World. It was a printing company. And this was a reason for the line still being BNSF. I think it still exists, but it's a short line operator apart from BNSF, and I haven't been back since this was taken. They come in, the plant is off to the right near the water tower. There he is making his set outs, pickups. And here he's all put back together and ready to head back. And this was the only part of the day where it was actually sunny, which was unfortunate, but at least we got something. And like I said, this is my only visit to this line. In the old days, the CB&Q used to run a mixed train up here with they used a 4960. The CB&Q was just outstanding as far as public relations. Lou Mink was the one that screwed that up. Okay, here's the train heading back, one of the country roads east of Mount Morris. We had the CP holiday train. This is at Milwaukee Depot. A little hard to get, but nonetheless, it was an interesting event. I believe I went out to Pewaukee and actually watched the show there. And this is heading down towards the end of the program. This is an ore train at White Rock Avenue in Waukesha. Westbound, I believe this was heading up to East St. Paul at Pilgrim Road with 2X Northwesterns, really looking sharp. even though they didn't have Northwestern colors. This is at North Lake, passing the gravel plant. They actually used this for a Christmas card one year. And while this train was running at this time, it almost always had ex-Northwestern units on it. I don't know that any of these are still around. There might be some repainted and renumbered. This is in Pewaukee. Quartet of Jeep 38s at Main Drag, Wisconsin Avenue. This has been fenced. Some of this has been fenced off. They got a grant to try and make it a quiet zone. And so far, it apparently has worked because I haven't heard news-wise of anybody getting in trouble here. Wauwatosa again near the park. Westbound. This is the last run of the City of Everywhere heading west in Ogden, Utah. So as we see the end of the train, this is thus the end of my show. And thank you much for the time and opportunity. The end.
Thank you, Tom. Anybody have any questions for Tom?
I'd just like to say, Tom, great presentation.
Oh, thank you. Thank you much.
Nice mix of a lot of stuff.
My pleasure.
Very good. I will add that the Burlington ran the 5632 up there once. They ran the Oregon Way Freight with it around 1962. So I've got a picture at Hinsdale when it was coming back, and it had a couple of freight cars with it. So that seemed like a big engine to go up there, but they did. So
Yeah, they did a
That's
lot.
my
They did a
comment.
lot of interesting stuff for the fans.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Let me grab my phone. So I see a lot of good comments coming across on the comments. So thank you, Tom, again. Just a couple reminders. One is the slideshow coming up on Tuesday, February 15th. The 5 presenters. Oh, and you're gonna test my Milwaukee skills here. Jerry Pfeiffer, the Illinois Central Gulf, Tales of the Freeport District. Dan Gridzolanek, an SD40-2 tribute. Jeff Wojciechowski, wow, there's some Milwaukee names. 2020 Out West. Eric Lindgren, Winter on the Front Range. And Eric Shikati, TBA. Now, I want to see a TBA show, but every time that always gets changed, and I never get to see a TBA show. They always get changed. So I wish somebody would do a TBA show, please. So we have 5 very talented photographers and at least 1 very talented musician in the lineup. So, and then again, Friday, March 4th, when I will still be the age I am now, except for the last day. The Weed Route with Alan Freed, and you can, Dave, discuss a little bit, but it has nothing to do with the illegal kind. So, so with that, we are, I want to thank, and I want to give Tom Markison, let's see, 2, 6, 7, 9, 12, 16. We have 19 people in attendance in the building, and I thank you. And I think we maxed out at 50 online, so thank you very much. Those of you that are in the building, please be careful on the drive home. I don't know how much it has snowed since we've been here. And Tom said the steps are a little slick, so please be careful.